let's talk about crypto. I do want to get to Techcrunch in a bit, but how did you, since we're on the crypto topic, how did you get into crypto?
Well, being in Silicon Valley, you're kind of crypto adjacent anyway. We're hyper aware of Bitcoin even 10 years ago. And ETH when it first came out and was raising money. And we being my partner and I, my venture fund, made some bets in crypto. And those bets are starting to, become liquid now, but those were not tokens. Those were just equity, equity in things like Coinbase, although I didn't invest in Coinbase. I didn't have the opportunity to. Mm-hmm. I did buy Bitcoin in, I think 2013 was the first time I bought it. And I think that was when it was Coinbase. And, so I've held Bitcoin since then. And I bought ETH very early. But again, I wasn't into crypto. I was still looking for the next Ubers and those kinds of companies that we invested in.
Right.
In 2017, though, a lot of people got into crypto in 2017. During the ICO boom, I started to take a much harder look at crypto. And that's when I decided, after doing a couple of deals, that I'd like to do it full time.
Okay.
And so at that point, and that also is why XRP, at that point, I started thinking about raising a fund. And I just knew the XRP people very well because they're based in San Francisco and I'd known them for a while. And so I approached them about helping me raise that fund. And that's sort of how it all started. And Ripple didn't actually become an LP in the fund, but they introduced me to people that did become LPs in the fund. So I owe a lot to them for helping me get this fund off the ground. And that's sort of how it all started.
But why specifically XRP though, as opposed to any other sort of asset?
I knew people who had large amounts of capital in XRP, and they became my initial LPs. Now, what's interesting is at first I wasn't going to call it Arrington XRP Capital. I was just going to call it something. My venture fund was named Crunch Fund. Like I was going to call it something. And actually, the Ripple people who aren't directly involved actually weren't like super excited about me calling it XRP because, it was just unclear if I was going to be associated with them, legally because of that name. But I kind of pushed because I wanted it to be called XRP Capital. And so they said, okay, it's fine. It's actually not a trademark. Go ahead and do it. And so that's how that happened. Since then, our LPs are not necessarily XRP holders, but that's a legacy issue that has stayed with us. And we remain extremely loyal to the XRP community and Ripple as a company.
So XRP is such a hot topic all the time. And I saw one of your interviews, I think you did with Pomp, and you were sort of talking about like the tribalism and things like that. So tell me about the tribalism that you felt, particularly just having XRP in the name.
Yeah, it surprised me. So when I entered crypto, again, I was adjacent to crypto in tech. I understood a little bit about what crypto was happening, the tech side more so. What I wasn't ready for was the tribalism. And I kind of ran face first into a wall when I announced the fund on stage at CoinDesk in, I think, late November 2017. And suddenly there were people who loved me, who I didn't know, because I was doing an XRP denominated fund. And there are people who truly hated me and wanted me truly dead because I was doing an XRP denominated fund. And I'd never seen that before. Like in tech, I'd seen people like Apple versus Windows type stuff before, but never that kind of tribalism. And it's taken me a few years to figure it out because it's not very logical. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense to hate XRP because it's structured differently than Bitcoin or ETH. Mm-hmm. Until you really get into the philosophies involved in Bitcoin and ETH and everything else. And so everybody in crypto hates each other, but everyone in crypto also agrees they hate XRP. And so that has been like the one sort of common theme that brings everyone together is we all hate XRP. I think that's ridiculous. And I've said why a million times, but it was surprising and it continues to some extent and it's annoying and it's sort of a friction. And that it is what it is. So.
Yeah, I think I tweeted out maybe back in like September last year, I wrote, imagine hating somebody because they prefer a different coin to you. And Adam Back, who's well known to be, potentially Satoshi, obviously somebody very much in the Bitcoin faction, he sort of said, imagine supporting a Ponzi scheme, but not just about X. That wasn't just directed at XRP, it was directed at ETH, it was directed at EOS, it was directed at pretty much all of them. And I can remember the founders sort of came running in, sort of saying, wow, I've lost a lot of respect for you for calling, you know, me a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's every day. That's Twitter. That's crypto Twitter. And I think it drives a lot of people away. They don't want to get burned, right? So they don't want to touch the hot fire. And that's too bad, because it would be nice if we could have some philosophical differences, but still agree on some core set of principles, but we aren't there yet. And I don't know if we ever will be.
What do you think those philosophical differences are?
The differences, or what are the things that could bring us together?
No, like those philosophical differences. Do you? Because I sort of think there's like a libertarian undertone which sort of differentiates the two. What do you think?
Differences
to get
between
the technology.
Yeah. Why do people hate different coins? Is that what you're asking?
No. Between Bitcoin and XRP, I sort of feel like they're the antithesis of each other.
Oh, I think Bitcoin and dollars are the antithesis of each other. I think that, I mean, you have Bitcoin going this way, dollars going this way. I think, you know, Bitcoin and XRP is more like this in terms of the angle of difference. But look, I mean, XRP is a ledger-based currency, and it is just the way that consensus is reached is much different than Bitcoin. And because of that difference, people feel that XRP is more centralized. And because of that, they feel that XRP is censorable, mutable, etc. Whether that's true or not becomes irrelevant, because this becomes a religious war and facts become irrelevant. I love Bitcoin. I have said and believe that Bitcoin is the alpha and the omega. It is, you know, it is the sun and the moon, and it is the most perfect money ever invented or even thought of. I also think that ETH is a very important currency, and I believe the world computer narrative, and I think that it is exceptionally interesting and important. Plays a role that Bitcoin cannot and should not play. And I think XRP does the same, as do other coins. And so I have no fundamental desire for XRP to die a fiery death, simply because it is in some instances less decentralized than Bitcoin. For the same reason I don't want ETH to die, because it is a totally different currency than Bitcoin, and say has more inflation. So.
Yeah, I understand. So essentially they all, you know, have value in different ways. But in terms of what happened with the SEC, I want to get your thoughts on that, because that for some came out of the blue. For Brad Garlinghouse, apparently it didn't quite come out of the blue. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a security? And also, like, how would you define a security for those that don't know? This is XRP, obviously.
Yeah, you just asked a lot. Okay, so
let's start with defining a security. If you can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I hate this question, and I'll tell you why. Like, I like answering it, but I hate the question. So I actually was a securities lawyer before I became an entrepreneur. That was back a ways, but I wrote a book about initial public offerings. I know securities law, and whether or not something is a security, even asking that question just plays into the hands of the SEC. They want everybody using their definitions to decide what is and isn't a security. Look, we buy cryptocurrencies with the hope of making money when they're denominated in dollars. We do that because we don't believe in dollars anymore. Is that a security? Maybe. I don't know. It depends, because it's not just about, is it a security and then the conversation's over. Is it a security? And then if it is, which is entirely a legal definition, then the SEC can really put the hurt on you. And so I think it's all securities, in the sense of, like, we're all buying these things because we're trying to get into assets that will protect us from what the dollar is doing. But no, are we looking at the Howey test, 100-year-old sort of test that is absolutely useless in a modern world? It's ridiculous. And so we also have to look at the fact that there's like 7 other federal organizations that are regulating crypto. And so, is it a currency? Is it a commodity? How does the IRS tax it? How does the DOJ and the FBI look at all of this? And it's just a mess. And so what is more interesting than, is this a security? How do we define a security? Is, will the US come up with a coherent regulatory scheme that allows Americans and people who want to do business in America to experiment with new business models and new type of assets to compete on a worldwide basis? And the answer so far is absolutely not. The US is only concerned with how to tax it and how to shut it down. And so we need to fix those two problems from a much higher perspective than, is this a security or not a security? Does that answer the question?
Yes, kind of. But from, you know,
I think it was a wonderful answer to the question.
But I still, well, not exactly, because you didn't answer, like, do you think it's a security?
I'm hurt.
Or, because it matters. It matters, because although you said, you know, we should be focusing on other issues, like the fact that they're sort of stifling innovation through all this tax and this and that. But, you know, as you know, the founder of Arrington XRP Capital, there are a lot of XRP bag holders watching now. A lot of people sort of feel that, you know, this could give XRP clarity. So that matters as well. The delisting of XRP on many different platforms matters. Just really about, you know, for people holding XRP, for investors.
You don't want to talk philosophy. You want to talk like down and dirty, like what's actually going to happen here. And I don't have answers to that. I have no idea. Like, yeah, I mean, the exchanges are delisting XRP despite the massive volume of XRP trades that were happening and a lot of fees they're creating, because they're scared. Because they're scared of the US government. And so you saw a mass delisting, which is, you know, it's not that surprising. When it comes to like what's actually going to happen, which I think is what you're really asking,
the future is what I'd like to know.
Look, I'm hoping that we get some regulatory clarity from this, but what I believe is the SEC wants Ripple dead to put a feather in their cap. Now, that's pure speculation based on nothing other than speculation. Also, the SEC is an entity that changes over time and is changing right now in terms of SEC chairs. And so what the SEC wants over time is largely going to be dependent on what the executive branch wants over time. And the executive branch just changed. So I have no idea. I have no visibility into what's going to happen to XRP at all. I believe the SEC probably wants us to go to trial. And when it goes to trial, we'll see what happens. But I don't know. And do I think it's a security? From the point of view of the SEC? No. But from the point of view of me, this doesn't matter. Like, what's a security, what isn't a security is totally irrelevant. And it really just comes down to like whether you only allow rich people to trade an asset or you allow everybody to trade an asset. And so when you look at like things like Uber, I was able to invest in one of the first rounds of Uber and Airbnb and Pinterest because I had wealth and had a venture fund. Everyday people who are just as smart or smarter than me also wanted to invest in those companies, or would have if they could have like looked at the business plans like I did. But the government told them that they're not worthy, that they're too poor, and so they can't make good financial decisions on their own. And so they're not allowed to invest in that. And so they don't get to make 10,000x returns on things like Uber and Pinterest and Airbnb and other companies. DoorDash is actually a funny one because I said no to it, but all my friends became multimillionaires on DoorDash. So now it's the same damn thing. The SEC comes in and they say, we don't think poor people, their definition of poor, are smart enough to make decisions that rich people are. And so we're going to stop them from doing that. That's evil. And so who cares what the definition of a security is at the end of the day? And we can debate that all day, although I'd probably just tune out at some point because I don't care. What I do care about is that we should stop fraud and we should allow people to make any decisions that they want to make, financially speaking. And that's it. And that's the end of the conversation from my point of view, because I'm only looking at it philosophically.
Okay, so philosophically speaking, you know, if this does hurt XRP, do you think this is therefore a threat to the rest of the crypto space?
The question you just asked, God, you're good at this. The question you just asked is can anything take crypto down at this point, right? That's really the question you asked. So XRP is decided there's a security. It's decided by court that there were securities sold without an exemption or registration under the Securities Act, and everybody that works or ever worked for Ripple is now in prison for life or put to death. Why not do that? What happens then? I think it's bad for crypto, but I think that crypto lives on. And but I don't know what that means. For example, let's say that tomorrow the United States government said that Bitcoin is a national security threat. Across the board, every regulatory agency said, we're not allowing Bitcoin. It's illegal now. Congress passes a law. If you hold Bitcoin, you're going to be put to death. Done. Would that kill Bitcoin? No, but it would suck, and it would be de facto dead anyway, because, you know, people would have to decide if they want to hold this asset and be put to death. So I think the U.S. government has the ability to kill crypto. But I don't know. I think as more and more time goes on and more government representatives own crypto, that becomes a smaller and smaller likelihood. But no, I don't think XRP, whether XRP lives or dies, has much effect on crypto in general. But what's right and wrong, it matters a lot.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that last bit which kind of gets me. I think what's right and wrong absolutely does matter, and whether you can sort of take down something which is decentralized, I don't think it's possible. But in terms of heavy regulation, taxing every single move that you make, I think that's sort of what will make things harder.